Sure. So I think this is rare for me to say, but I think everybody's a little bit right. I think Druckenmiller's right that the market overall is rich. I think that Nelson Peltz is right that there is loads of value. Josh said something interesting. He said winners and losers beneath the surface. And that's true too. Beneath the surface, that's where it diverges. So you don't need to look at the S&P 500 overall and say the market is rich. You can go deeper and make individual decisions on individual stocks, maybe individual industries, and find some really astonishingly great values.
Okay, so
what I've done is I've spent the last two...
I want to know where. Sorry to interrupt you, but if there are things that are cheap, Jenny, I want to know where. I know our viewers do too. They're looking.
Sure. So for example, we bought 3 new positions in the last week, 4 actually, in the portfolio. And we haven't done much for the previous almost 9 months. But we bought Viacom, we bought Unum, which is an insurance company, we added Intel, and we added Seagate to the portfolio. These are stocks that have crept on to our screens. Some of them are trading at 3 and 4 times earnings. Okay, let's say those earnings don't hold up and they get cut even more. Let's call it 6 and 8 times earnings. There's a lot of value out there, and there's a lot of cash flow to support those earnings, but they've fallen out of the market overall. So what we've done to fund those is we've trimmed things like Home Depot, which we still have a large position in, but we would say that one's been a huge winner, right? And actually grew to almost 7% of our growth portfolio. So we trimmed some of that, repurposed it into Intel. That's a nice way to take advantage of the winners and losers in this market.
Yeah, interesting moves. You know, the Viacom one, jumps out at me as very interesting given the dismal performance of that stock over a fairly long period of time. I get the fact that it has a nice and handsome yield on it, but it's been pretty ugly nonetheless.
Really ugly, but I think that's why it's attractive. I remember when I was on in November, we were talking about it, and I had nothing to say. I had no opinion on Viacom whatsoever. But then it was at, I think, 50 or something. Now it's trading in the $16, $17 range. So now it's become attractive. Now you can actually do something because the margin of safety on it is much, much, much larger. Again, I think even with significant decreased ad revenues, they should still earn probably close to $4 a share. Trading at 16 times, that's compelling.
Joe, you have some interesting moves as well that I think we can have a pretty feisty debate about with the gang today. You bought Disney and you bought J.P. Morgan.
I did.
So tell me about both of those moves.
Sure, Scott. As I've been talking about with J.P. Morgan, I'm kind of trading around that position. And given the elevated volatility and the range expansion, you have that opportunity to do it. Would I aggressively step in as a long-term investor and buy J.P. Morgan here with it trading around $85? Yes, I believe I would. But I have been, as I said, selling it as it gets to the mid and upper 90s and buying it back when it gets down to about $80. And that's exactly what I've done this week. So I've reestablished that position. Will I allow it to go beyond $90 if it does get up there? If the conditions as it relates to the yield curve would it improve? Yes, I would do that. Disney, we talked about on the show the day of earnings. I think at the time it was trading around 108, 109. Kevin O'Leary at the time was talking negatively about Disney, and I know Pete was on the show talking positively that day. I do believe that ESPN will be a significant contributor to Disney, and I'm not sure that we're really pricing that in the economic recovery that we might experience. I know we're talking about the growth of Disney Plus. So I had said to you at the time I wanted to wait for a little bit of a better pricing. I think you got a great pricing in Disney as it fell back towards $100. I get into the stock yesterday. That's a long-term investment. That's not something I'm going to trade around.
Really two interesting stocks to debate.